everyone. Welcome to our meeting of the Winsboro Area School District Board of Directors for March 23rd, 2021. And before we get our meeting started, if you would please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. I believe we have all our board members here tonight. Now for the agenda, I don't believe we have any changes. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Just wanted to make sure that one item was added. Okay, next item, approval of the minutes. Everybody took a look. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Superintendent report, Dr. Klein.
A little bit of, I just want to make sure that we're clear. The CDC has come out with different regulations and made some changes. Even as a department now, until we get a directive from the Department of Ed, probably won't be making any changes, but I do anticipate the 6-foot rule being changed, and I anticipate some others. Just to update, we do have currently 2 positive students note, and then we also have 2 staff members who do not count on our what we would consider our counts within 2 weeks, but we do have 2 staff members that are positive. So right now we currently have 4 with positive staff or students. That's it.
Okay. We don't have any public comment that were sent to you. This is correct. Do we have anyone else who would like to come up and have their say today?
Good evening. Just before I start,
Name and address.
Melissa Carpenter, 11491 Lady Drive in Waynesboro. Just so you know, it is very hard for you guys to talk. I know you need to be closer to me. But anyway, that's not why I came up. I actually came up 2 requests that I'm not sure what's been decided yet about prom for this year. But I know we have a bunch of students, specifically seniors, who would love to be able to celebrate prom. They missed out on prom last year, and I know a lot of students missed out on a lot of things this past year. But I do believe something would be done for them safely. They've all done an amazing job, as a 100-day video has proven. I'm not sure if the board is going to make a decision, if it's at the administration that needs to make the decision. But I believe, especially for students that need to go out, because I know my daughter has been waiting to buy a dress, because we don't know, we don't want to go spend money on a prom gown that may hang like one, from last year. So I would greatly appreciate the decision to be made expeditiously.
Yeah, I can at least address a little bit. The board has had, I think, the last meeting, we had discussions, and the board's been kind of being patient because the way the standards are from the state, we would not be able to hold it as a school function unless it be held outside. That would be a possibility. But inside, we would be able to do it because of the 6 foot. If they even change it to 3, I'm not sure how much dancing would go on, but and the mask rule inside would still stay, that could be dealt with. So there are a number of issues. The number of people in a space, certain space, might limit it to seniors, but the board did not want to give up that opportunity and kind of been patient to wait to see, with all the vaccinations of teachers and such going on, the state will state back off to see, so that we can do it. Again, outside is a possibility, but I think before that's decided, I'd like to see Thursday. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we can't commit at this point, but except we're not committing to, not say we're not having it. We're saying if at all possible, we can make it work, we are, but we don't know for sure what that looks like. Now, if some big spike happen and we have to cancel it, it's still possible, I don't think that's gonna happen. But the decision is, it's still on if we can make it work. I think that's,
When you're talking, if you could talk directly into the microphone.
I was just looking at the minutes because I was absent from the last meeting, so I wanted to see what happened. You said at the last meeting, the board would try to make a decision by April 13th, which is our next meeting.
try. Yeah, that would be nice.
Could we not set a date, though?
We didn't set a date.
But could we not set a date so they have a date?
Oh, it also says possibly hold prom for seniors only, May 15th. Possible.
Yes.
Does that help?
Yeah. Okay, anyone else with public comment today? Okay, if we don't, we will move on then to board reports. And does anybody have anything to report from any committee meetings? Wow. That's policy.
That's policy. Okay.
Okay, and I'm sorry, or did I get that meeting after the last meeting? Okay. So the next academic meeting is not until, at this point, it's until April 12th. The facilities met, right?
Facilities met last Monday.
Get my time mixed up. Ever say about that, Mr. Mayor?
No.
Okay. Oh, yes, I'm wrong, thank you. Okay, the next academic is on Tuesday, the 31st, right? 30th, at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, there. But the committee's all good with that, Dr. Klein, and so is Dr. Sternheim, so. Okay, so it's the 30th, 3 o'clock, sorry about that. Too many things going on. Anything else for board reports? Okay, this might not be the right time for this, but I'll say it anyway. If anyone was able to see the news broadcast that Channel 8 did, Dr. Klein was a half-hour segment on education and the status of education in Pennsylvania in our area. And Dr. Klein was able to speak, giving the superintendent's point of view. They had 2 teachers from Lancaster, and they had the president of the PSEA. And they also had a student. I thought Dr. Klein was excellent, and Sophia Johnson. We were happy to see her there. I thought it was outstanding. Everybody who saw it was like, oh, she was great. So you might have outshined Dr. Klein there a little bit. You did a great job, and thanks for participating in that. Really appreciate that.
Okay, yeah, I second that. He did a fantastic job.
Okay, moving on. Presentations. First one will be the audit.
Yes, we have spent that way terms, and we have birthday dates. We have Mr. Kevin Stauffer. And we do have an electronic version of the presentation on his agenda. If you want to look at it.
Eric, I apologize. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to hear anything that you just said, but I'm going to go ahead with my presentation if that's okay. So, pleasure being in front of you this evening. Again, my name is Kevin Stauffer. I'm a member with the firm Smith, Elliott, Kearns & Company. Also on the Zoom call here is Taylor Rowe. She's the supervisor on the job, and she is here for the meeting as well tonight. So on the next page is just a high-level summary related to the presentation here tonight. And what this is a high-level summarized presentation or summarization of the annual financial report, including the independent auditor's report, our management letter, and our required communications with those charged with governance. So I'm trying to take over 110 pages and condense it down for you into about a 15-minute presentation for you here this evening. So on the next page, you'll see some of the overall high-level results from the audit. And overall, I think you'll be very pleased with the results this year. First and foremost, we were able to issue an unmodified audit opinion, which is the best opinion that we can issue on the financial statements. And I'll go through those details on the next slide. Financially for the year, the general fund did have an increase in fund balance where the revenues did exceed the expenditures. And I will obviously dive into that as well here shortly. And also happy to report that we didn't have any findings in the current year related to our audit. So again, I think very positive results stemming from your 1920 audit year. On the next page are just the additional details as it relates to the independent auditor's report. Again, this is where we, as your independent auditors, issue our opinion on your financial statements. This year, again, we were able to issue the unmodified audit opinion, which is the best opinion that we can issue on the financial statements. Essentially, what that means is that the financial statements are materially correct and can be relied upon. It is not an opinion on internal controls, nor is it an opinion or results of fraud investigation. Sometimes people hear the word audit and they think it's all encompassing or that we're looking at every transaction. Although it may feel like it to Eric and his staff, we do not look at every transaction. We perform sampling to ultimately issue the opinion that the financial statements were materially correct, and we were able to do so this year. On the next page, we start to dive into some of the numbers now, starting with the general fund. So I know there's a lot of information here. This is pretty much the income statement from the general fund. That includes the comparison to the previous year, 18-19, as your 19-20 actual results. That compares that to the final budget, including a variance on the right-hand side. A lot of the explanations that I'm going to cover are on the next page, but I'm going to leave it here on this slide just so you can see the individual numbers that I'm referring to. So starting towards the top, you'll see the total revenues were about $1.5 million more than budget. The two biggest reasons for that were first the local revenue, which primarily consists of the taxes. That includes all taxes, both real estate earned income and real estate transfer tax. And also saw an increase in the state revenues. They were about $900,000 more than was budgeted, and that was due to additional reimbursements from ClaimCon as the project was approved, and subsequent prior year reimbursements were received in the current year. Moving down about 2/3 of the way through the page, you'll see the total expenditures for the year, just about $61.9 million, which is about $1.5 million under budget. The biggest reason for that was the offset with COVID. Certain expenditures obviously not incurred with the shutdown in the last 3 months. However, you did see an increase in the salaries and benefits, mostly in instruction and support services, and also saw an increase in your special education, charter school costs, as well as the praxis. Moving down to the bottom category, you can see the most significant items there are issuance and refinancing of long-term financing. And you did have a bond refinancing during the year, so you can see how that's kind of an in and out there as far as revenue and expenditures. So the bottom line, if you take the revenues less the expenditures for the current year actual results, $594,354. As compared to the budget, which was break even, so a positive variance of $594,000 in comparison to the budget. Again, the next page, page number 6, are just the explanations that I've previously covered. So I'll move on to page number 7 then, which is the food service analysis. Unfortunately, food service was impacted by COVID-19 probably as much, or if not more, than the other funds. You can see the operating revenues, which are your meals sold, decreased about $225,000, and also a slight decrease in the non-operating revenues. And those were the reimbursements for your free and reduced meals that were provided, and a decrease there of about $80,000. And as far as the total expenses are concerned, an overall decrease of about $220,000 compared to last year. You can see the slight decrease in salaries and benefits. Obviously, by providing and selling less meals, the food and milk purchases decreased, as did the other operating expenses. So overall, the change in net position did decrease, where the expenses did exceed the revenues this year by about $83,000, again, mostly driven by COVID I think the positive note here, though, is that there are no transfers from the general fund, so the food service fund is self-sustaining. On the next page, I'll just turn your attention now briefly to the medical insurance fund. Overall, you can see the operating revenues decrease where they were charging the other funds for the medical insurance by about $500,000, almost $600,000 for the year. Similarly, the total expenses decreased about $700,000, so a positive year as far as the claims were concerned. But the biggest impact was the payment to the Lincoln Benefit Trust. That change was made to go from self-insured to being part of the Lincoln Benefit Trust during the year. So there was a large payment to set aside reserves with the Lincoln Benefit Trust, and that amounted to $4 million, thus leading to the overall decrease in the change in that position of just under $4.1 million for the year. For the next several slides, I just have some graphical analysis to go through. The first one shows the governmental activities under the full accrual basis of accounting. You can see the negative net position, nothing alarming there. Again, for those of you who have heard my presentation before, the biggest reason for the large liabilities is the reporting of the school district's proportionate share of the PSER's underfundedness for that plan. That's what's causing the negative net position for the governmental activities, which is reported under the full accrual basis of accounting, but not reported in the general fund. On the next page, it now turns your attention to the general fund revenue. Obviously, the largest source of revenue are taxes, and again, that is all taxes, including real estate, earned income taxes, as well as real estate transfer taxes. Over the past 5 years, you can see the steady increase there, about $4.4 million over that 5-year period, or about 17%. The other increase is within the state sources, a similar increase of just about $4.3 million, or about 19%. The biggest reason for that is as the PSER's rate has increased, you're receiving 1/2 of that reimbursed from the state. So you are receiving more state funding, but the majority of that is related to the PSER's reimbursement. And then again, the plant con monies were received in 2020 as well, causing that to increase for that time period. On the next page, this information is 1 year behind for the revenue analysis. You can just see the breakdown for those. We have Waynesboro School District, a large graph on the left-hand side, and on the top right are the LIU schools, and on the bottom right are similar schools or similar school districts and similar size revenue. So you can see the largest source of revenue, again, is the taxes. For the school district, it's about 47%, blue category. For Waynesboro, and the state sources make up about 44%. It's a little bit different than what you're seeing for the LIU schools, as well as school districts of a similar size. They have more tax revenue on less state sources. And the other fluctuation is the red category, which is your other local. Because of the Abraxas information running through the school district's revenue and expenses, you're seeing the increase there as far as the other local revenue is concerned. On the next page, it just turns your attention now to the expenditure side of things. So this shows the general fund expenditures by function. You can see for the most part fairly consistent, with the exception being the instruction category, which has increased about 18% over the past 5 years, or about $6.3 million. And the support services also increasing about 17% over that time period. And I think those explanations can be better detailed on the next slide, which looks at the same expenditures, only instead of by function, it's looking at them by object. So on slide number 13, you'll just see an expenditure object breakdown. So you can see the overall increase in the salaries over the past 5 years, about $2.7 million, or about 13%, including about a 3.5% increase from 19 until 20. The other fluctuation that's significant is the employee benefits, which has increased about $2.8 million, or about 22% during that 5-year period. And the biggest reason for that is the PSER's rate combined with the health insurance increases during that time period. The other category I just wanted to highlight is right in the middle, the other purchase services. You can see that that's increased over the past 5 years by about 2.5%, or about 33% during that time period. The biggest reason for that is that includes your transportation, the charter schools, as well as the Abraxas expenditures that we were discussing earlier. On the next page is a similar graph that we looked at earlier as far as the expenditures are concerned. So that just shows the expenditures broken down by object, and again compares it to the LIU schools as well as school districts of a similar size. Obviously, the largest source of expenditures are salaries and benefits, the blue and the red categories, which for the school districts about 64%. And you can see that's right in line with the LIU schools, and it's just slightly less school districts of a similar size. The other fluctuation is the teal color. That's the other purchase services. Again, with the Abraxas being that a little bit higher because obviously the other school districts do not have those expenses. Last item I want to point out are the maroon and the dark green categories. That's essentially your debt services as well as your transfers. For Waynesboro, that amounted to 9% during the previous year, as compared to the LIU schools, that's 11%, and school districts of a similar size combined about 11% as well. So just for comparison purposes. On the next page is just a graph of the fund balance and debt position comparison. Again, you can see the overall increase in the fund balance in the general fund from 5 years ago, where the fund balance was about $1.7 million. And again, it's up to about $4.4 million at the end of 2020. The other items I want to point out are your food service fund. Again, the negative net position just being due to reporting of their proportionate share of the PSERS liability for the underfundedness of that plan. So nothing alarming. They just report under the full accrual basis of accounting, and those liabilities are reported in that fund. The other item I wanted to point out is on the right-hand side was the medical insurance fund. And again, by switching to Lincoln Benefit Trust, obviously significantly reducing the net position that was previously set aside in the self-insured medical insurance fund. So just two more graphs to touch base on. On page number 16, we just have an expenditures per average daily membership. Again, this is 1 year behind, just all for comparison purposes. As you can see, for the Waynesboro area school districts, about $13,300. Compared to the LIU schools, that's about $16,770. And all school districts in Pennsylvania, about $18,280. So just to give you an idea of what your expenditures per ADM as defined by BDE comparing to LIU schools and all school districts in Pennsylvania. The last graph that we have just looks at the unassigned fund balance as a percentage of the expenditures. Again, so for Waynesboro School District the previous year, that was about 4%. For the LIU schools, it's about 7.2%. And all Pennsylvania school districts, about 6.7%. Just a couple other highlights now briefly. On number 18, it just turns your attention to the schedule of expenditure of federal awards. The total federal expenditures this year were about $2.9 million. So as part of that, we had to test certain federal programs, and we actually tested 2 this year, both the Title I program as well as the Child Nutrition Cluster, which is the free and reduced reimbursements from the federal dollar perspective. So on the next page, page number 19, we just have our schedule of findings and question calls. And here's where I'm very happy to report that both from the financial statement audit perspective, as well as the audit of the major federal programs awards, again, Title I and Child Nutrition Cluster, happy to report that we didn't have any findings related to our audit. So a very positive note for the district. Turning your attention now to our management letter on page number 20. The purpose of this letter is first to go over a couple recommendations that didn't rise to the level of a finding, but we included those in our letter there. We also have a summary of new standards that will affect the school district in the future and have an impact on the financial statements and how it will assist the school district in implementing those standards in the future. And then all the graphical analysis that we just covered is in the separate management letter and not within the financial statements themselves. And again, each of these were reviewed in detail with management previously. So the last letter that we have on page number 21 is just our standard communications letter. Had there been any significant issues in completing the audit or disagreements with management on accounting principles, we'd have to report on those here in this letter. I'm happy to report there were no such issues or disagreements, so that's why we just consider it our standard communications letter. So on the last slide is just a summary. Again, very positive results from the audit this year. First, again, we were able to issue the unmodified audit opinion, which is the best opinion that we can issue on the financial statements. Overall, the general fund did have an increase in fund balance this year of just under $600,000, and also happy to report that we didn't have any findings related to our audit this year. I know that was a lot of information. I hope somewhat fairly quickly for you. I wanted to open it up for questions. Again, I'll do my best. I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing on the audio. Certainly want to try to answer any questions that I can this evening, either related to the presentation that I had or from any of the audit-related documents.
Anyone have any questions? That's because it's like really good news there. Nobody has any questions. Okay.
Looks good.
Okay. If not, thank you very much. We appreciate the work put in. And
Okay, thank you very much for your time this evening. If you were to have any questions after tonight, please feel free to either filter those through Eric or contact me directly. We'd be happy to answer those. Again, thank you for your time this evening, and we'd appreciate doing a service for the district. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
And before we move on, I am really grateful for the work from Mr. Holtzman, Mrs. Truax, and Dr. Klein, because 5 years ago, I mean, 1 point whatever it was might look like a lot of money, but that's nothing in the fund balance. We were way below where we needed to be. And in 4 years then, we're up to at least the minimum, I believe, of what the percentage of what we need. And we want to go higher than that. We're trying to be responsible and have some money there, you know, for an emergency or whatever. And I just think you guys have done a great job of building that back up. And Dr. Turner, sorry, giving you credit too, I missed you.
Thank you.
So thank you for that.
Briefly, if I just want to briefly plug in, there's 2 acts and also home trust people. They all integral parts of the design. They do a great job, so we really appreciate that.
Okay, we're moving in the right direction, so that's great. Okay, next item. Next item is the awards, I believe, or the recognition of the athletes. Mr. McElwain.
Hello. Where am I going? Athletic director here?
Okay.
No. Yes, I did. Switch on the top. Alright, better? Yes? Okay. I'm Eric Bancom, athletic director, and this is always a good opportunity for us to come in front of the board to kind of let you know some of the things that we were able to accomplish over the course of the winter. First and foremost, I want to thank the board, Dr. Klein, Dr. Cernaheim for allowing us to have a season. Again, we lost last spring. Fall was very unsure. Winter was very unsure. We got pushed back to normally we start December with our tip-off tournaments. December 7th, we got pushed back to January 4th for a start date, so everything got pushed back. And then we had some COVID issues over Christmas, so again, we weren't really sure we were going to be able to get our season in. But you know, our coaching staffs, our athletes, our parents, and are so grateful to you guys to allow us to do that. Some schools completely shut down their athletic programs. We had some strict protocols that we had to go through. Watching a wrestling match with kids wearing masks was interesting, to say the least. But you know, watching our basketball athletes run up and down the floor with masks on the entire game, and Waynesboro was by far one of the best schools at adhering to those protocols during our games. Our gymnasts, we did allow them to take them off when they're getting on the balance beams because of the vision issues. So, but again, once they came off, they put them right back on. So again, it's a testament to how much these kids and these coaches wanted to be out there and participating. And I told my coaches at the beginning of the year, a successful year is that we get through. And we did that. And then they did much more than that as well. But we also we weren't able to recognize some of our fall athletes just because of the timing that we had. So we do have some of our fall teams here that we're going to recognize as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to introduce the coach. They're going to come up and talk directly about their athletes that are being recognized. But again, I want to extend a huge thank you, not only from myself, but from our families and our coaches and our athletes for allowing us. Thank you. All right. Oh, wrestling, they're not here. So wrestling, we did have several members of our wrestling team. And again, everything was cut down. So we cut down the number of playoffs. You know, when we go to our sectional meet, it's usually the top 4 or top 5 kids that move on to districts. This year, because they had to limit the numbers, it was only the top 2 that moved on to districts. So you had to be first or second. And if you lost one match, you automatically weren't going to be able to be in that championship match. So we did have one athlete advance to districts. That was Bodie Rouser. On a normal year, we would have had 8 athletes that would advance to districts because they were in the 4 or 5 spots. But with that being said, we did have 3 athletes that made it to All-Stars. That was Garrett Price, Isaac McGregor, and Bodie Rouser were the 3 athletes that were selected to the All-Stars for our wrestling team. All right, again, we weren't able to recognize football. We weren't able to recognize football in the fall, but so Coach Sprankle's going to come down and just speak with his kids on the fall.
Good evening. I would like to echo Coach McElwain's comments in that we were very thankful that our district was able to come together as a whole for these kids to even have a fall sports season. We had 8 games instead of our normal 10, but we were actually only scheduled for 7. We were able to add a game, and certainly hats off to all of our athletes that worked hard leading up to their sports season, not necessarily knowing if they were going to have it. So they put in a tremendous amount of work, so it's great that we were able to come and recognize these guys tonight. So I had several of our football players that made either a first team all-conference or second team all-conference. Up first, I would call Gunnar Flesher. We're going to come down here. So Gunnar was a member of our football team. He was a senior. So Gunnar was recognized as a first team offensive lineman. He had over 15 pancake blocks, so that's where he knocked somebody down while he's blocking for the running back. So our offense, Gunnar was part of playing several different positions on the offensive line and helping. He was the team captain, so he was one of our leaders that really took control of the team for the year, so we appreciate that. Next, it's Ryan Day. So Ryan Day was the first team defensive back. Ryan was recognized as one of our conference leaders with 34 tackles, 9 passes defended, and 6 interceptions. So that's 6 interceptions in only 8 games is really incredible. And because of that, I nominated Ryan for an All-State honor, which was voted on by over 250 coaches throughout Pennsylvania. He was selected as first team All-State Pennsylvania Football News player. So really proud of him. Ryan's only a junior, so we're super happy. We'll be back for another year. Next, I have Aiden Mencia. So Aiden was nominated as an all-conference running back. This is for the second year in a row. So Aiden's also only a junior. Aiden averaged over 5 yards per carry, accounted for over 500 yards of total offense, so between running the ball and catching it, and had 3 total touchdowns. So great job, Aiden. Ready to go. Brody Rhodes, another junior. Brody was nominated as an all-conference return specialist. He had almost 400 return yards between punt returns and kickoff returns, including a 97-yard kickoff return for a touchdown against East Pennsboro. Pretty exciting. One other athlete, Fred Grimo. He was a baseball player, so he had a baseball game today. He was not able to join us, but Fred was nominated as an all-conference defensive lineman, accounting for 26 tackles, 3 sacks, and he had a touchdown, a fumble return for a touchdown. So again, I just want to thank you guys for really pulling together, supporting us, not only to let the kids play, but to let the parents come and watch. That was a huge deal coming into our season. We came back to the fall. Lots of parents were worried they wouldn't get to see their sons play their senior year, and there were some stadiums we played in where they didn't allow visiting fans, and it was really eerie, so I'm glad that at least when we were at home, we were able to have them. So thank you, everybody.
Next up, we have Coach Saunders with our volleyball team, who she's going to come up and speak with our volleyball team. But if you get a chance to watch a volleyball game, it's great. We go out there; these girls are 100% supporting each other all the way through. I don't know if I should have Coach Saunders talk or if I should have Sophia to come up and do the talking for them. But again, Coach had a great season, undefeated in division play.
Good evening. I made a few notes just to make sure that I cover everything to recognize the program. So first I want to say thank you for having us to the board and to Dr. Klein and to Dr. Sternheim. I just want to thank you for allowing us to play, giving us the opportunity to play. I feel like since we were the only fall indoor sport, that we were, if you will, guinea pig. So I told the girls to be prepared for anything and everything. No matter what, if we had to wear the mask, we were willing to wear the mask as long as we got the flag. And play we did. We would have never thought that we would have gotten 16 matches in. And the seniors, we had a class of 5 seniors, and every night we probably could have cried because we knew we got that one in. And the next day we got the next one in. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. This was my 9th season, and by far my hardest due to a loss I had in 2020. And so I personally needed the season, and the girls did not disappoint. So I really appreciate that. I want to first recognize the staff that I have because they are amazing. Our teacher, our current teacher of the year, Emily Nystrom from the high school. Coach and my right hand. Coach Farron Stoops is in his 8th year with the program, and Jordan Stoops, a 2015 alum, has joined the program for the first year, and she's now assistant coach at Wilson. So bringing it back to the community. I want to recognize all the girls this evening because without them, we could not have had the success that we did. Volleyball had roller coasters in the sense that we started the season with no one in the gym, not even our bench. Our bench was in the hallways. My coaching staff was in the hallway. So that was huge. And each week things got better. So the bench got to come inside. We got some fans, and we were thankful for it all. We have several players to recognize as far as all conference, and the all conference, to give you a few stats for them. Sophia Johnson, you know that name. She was our senior captain, 2-time captain. She had 202 kills on the year. She hit an amazing 465%. That is unbelievable. She had 11 aces and 60 blocks. She was second team all conference last year, and she was a 3-year starter. She has a 3.8 GPA, and she has just signed her letter of intent to go to Cal PA to study athletic training. Tracy Vaughn could not be here this evening because of that word, you know what I'm talking about. But I do want to recognize her because she had a tremendous senior year. And she was first team all conference as well as second team all district. And that is huge for her. She had 182 kills, 43 blocks. So I'd like to give Gracie a big round of applause. Leah Hellman was second team all conference. Leah also had an outstanding senior campaign with 54 kills, 32 aces, 96% serving average, and 90 digs. She was our all over the place, all over the court. So she was a tremendous So, as Coach Macalom said, and I should back up, I'd like to thank Coach Macalom as well as Heather Arstead for everything that they did, from the travel to the coordination of everything that we needed in the gym. We had to clean balls and all of those types of things, gloves. So I just want to take a minute to thank them as well. So we are the 2020 Mid-10 Colonial Division champions, and we had a 12-0 record in the conference. Amazing what they accomplished. 14-2 overall. We hosted our first district game. We won our first district game at home, and we were able to play a second round here. And that is unbelievable. If you know the world of volleyball, York County is the mecca. York County is where volleyball is mainstay. And for us to be able to host here in Franklin County, Little Old Waynesboro, does your heart cry. So I'd like to recognize all the ladies that were able to come this evening, if you don't mind. The senior Mariah Burkholder. Emily Channing, junior. Clayton Fisher, sophomore. Allison Sawicki, junior. Hayden King, freshman. So again, on behalf of the entire 2020 program, I do thank you for everything that you did to allow us to play. I'd like to leave you with the most important award that we haven't had our banquet yet. Our banquet's the end of April, so we have lots to celebrate yet together. But thing that I boast the most about my program is our ability to be good student athletes. We had 27 members between the JV and the varsity this season, and we had 26 members on the honor roll. So these are true student athletes. Thank you.
That was my first hire as athletic director. Next up, I'd like to bring up Coach Amy Dennis with our gymnastics team. All right, we're bringing up Coach Amy Dennis with our gymnastics team. Again, another very successful season. She's toting the hardware down here, so I'll let her talk.
All right, I had to make some notes as well because we had just an amazing season for everything that we dealt with. We got a few practices in and then kind of put things on hold. And I was talking to parents about is this going to work? Is this not going to work? I had parents say my daughter came home crying because she thought this was it. And we made it through the season. Not only made it through the season, but qualified into the silver division for states and won it easily. We had at states, we hit 140.5 as our team score. We haven't been in the 140s in about 10 years. So what these ladies accomplished with shorter practices because of so many games, and everything trying to wear a mask as much as they could safely. It was a lot of juggling back and forth, but they really made it work. So I'll tell you a little bit about the group that qualified, and then we had some individual place winners as well, so I'll tell you about those. Our bronze competitors, qualifiers, Maya Menser, Maya Williams, Maddie Wedican, Brooke Bonner, Annabelle Lutz, and Annie Myers also qualified, but had an injury and was not able to compete. In the silver division, Cassidy Heiss, Bella Bonner, Alasia Ward, and Emily Knott. And in the diamond division, this is as high as you can go in the state. We had 3 qualify there, all arounders, Aiden Roberts, Jenna Giesman, and Jada Krieger. In the bronze division, Maddie Wedican was 6th on vault. Annabelle Lutz was 6th on beam. And this was kind of an interesting state meet. The beam wasn't even in the main gym. So it was really quiet and really kind of surreal over there. So they did a wonderful job. In the silver division, Bella Bonner placed 8th on vault, and she was 10th all around. And in the diamond division, Jenna Giesman was 7th on vault, 8th on bars, and 7th all around. And Jada Krieger was 5th on vault, 6th on bars, and 8th all around. And we'll kind of give you a look into how talented these girls are. Both Jada and Jenna, that they placed on vault at states in that upper division. And before
before they even got back to their seats, had discovered how very close they are to our school record on vault. And they said it's going down. So, and they are, one is a freshman and one is a sophomore, so I have no doubt that that will happen. So this is your Silver Division state champions. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Coach Hoffman with our boys basketball team. Again, we were all over the place with basketball, with kids coming and going, with getting line listed. We get line listed a lot, it seems, in basketball. And when we get back into a groove, we get another one line listed. But we did a great job, and I'm really proud of those kids.
Thanks, guys, for having me this evening. I too, going last, I guess. I'm going to reiterate some of the things that have already been said, but on December 11th, when we got shut down by the state, I've done this a long time, and for the first time, I saw in my student athletes' eyes like fear and just pain. I've never seen anything like that in my 20-some years of coaching. And so to tell them that there was no tomorrow as of now, and that we would hope for the best and see what would happen after 3 weeks was a little bit of an unknown. And so that was a tough day, but I do want to thank you guys for taking that leap of faith and the courage to go ahead and push through and to help us have a season. And so we are very appreciative of all of us. I also know that Coach Saunders and others thank Mr. McElwain, but I don't think you can appreciate how hard he fought to get us as many games as possible, day in and day out. And so he would schedule and then reschedule and then cancel and recancel and then schedule and reschedule. And I think it's appropriate to give him a hand right now. So the boys basketball team was 11-6, close on the outside, looking at the district playoff situation. We compete in the 6A divisions. So it was a little difficult this year, but we were predicted to come in next to last in the preseason poll, and so we finished third, and it was a very good season, to be honest with you. We had a couple games come down to the end, and if we could have flipped them, we easily could have ended up 15-2, 14-3. So it's credit to our guys. Again, a couple peripheral things. We won the Sportsmanship Award for our division, which is it's a good accomplishment to know that sportsmanship still does exist and exists in Waynesboro. So we're proud of that. But tonight's about Bryce Schaefer. Bryce is the only player on the team that was recognized on the All Division team. He came in, he made second team All Division. Just a little background on Bryce. As good of a player as he is, he's just as good of a student athlete. He's everything we would want representing us. He's a good student, a good person. I can't say enough about him as a man, first of all. And we're going to miss him next year. He won the offensive and the defensive, what we call player of the year within the team. So we said he was the best offensive player based on some stats. We also said he was the best defensive player. So we don't pick an MVP anymore because we feel all the roles that we ask our guys to play are important and most valuable. But when you're the best of both of them, that's a pretty good start. So, Bryce Schaefer.
Again, thank you. That concludes the athletic part of this program. So have a good night.
Thank you. Congratulations to all our athletes and a lot of accomplishments. Good for you guys. Yeah, everybody hear that? You guys are getting your picture taken out of the wall.
Picture taken. Nope.
Hey, guys, today we picture takes when you go out, Mr. Madison, take it. Thank you.
Gotta get the picture.
Okay, on to,
Yeah, I don't think it's that's really important, honestly.
Board docs, we have retirement of professional staff, congratulations to Mrs. Karen Krugel. Resignation of support staff, appointments of coaching staff, appointments of aid personnel, appointments.
You're gonna have to hold up Mrs. Harold until everybody leaves.
Okay.
I'm ready for you guys to public comment at the end. Okay, Dr. Steinman.
Thank you, Mrs. Harold. I'd like to direct your attention to the personnel items listed in the board doc. We have retirement, professional staff of Mrs. Karen Krugel. Big congratulations on her retirement. Resignation of support staff, appointments of coaching staff, appointments of game personnel, appointments of substitute support staff. In addition, we have transfer support staff. In addition, we have a listing of 6 leaves. Recommendation is to approve as listed.
Do we have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Any questions for Dr. Steinman? Not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 4 days in the summer, Dr. Klein.
Typically, we have every year we ask the board for to be able to move to a 4-day week. We've been doing it. This summer will be the 4th or 5th time we've done it. So, we just it seems like more of our staff seem to like having that than not. And at least now we didn't survey this year, but in the past we have, and it's usually most want to do it. So we're coming back to you to ask if it would be okay to do a 4-day week this summer.
We typically would start the first week after the last day of school, which would be June 7th. And then we typically come back a little earlier than everybody else does, which would be August 6th.
Yeah, prior to sports and everything else.
I'm trying to make sure that we're back, anticipating there might be a lot of enrollments coming back in August, hopefully. We make sure there's get available, all that.
Yeah, I think this past year we were back before August, aren't we?
Well, we certainly could, right, we do make it the last week of July, which would be the 30th.
Yeah, that way it is.
Other questions? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Operator.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. I'd like to direct your attention to the Aubrey proposal in the board docs. This is a follow-up to the presentation by Mrs. McGuire at the last board meeting, in addition to presentation at the academic committee. The recommendation is to move forward with the Aubrey adoption on a 1-year option to be able to provide school management, professional learning, teaching and learning, and community partnerships and engagement as an overall learner information platform. So my recommendation is to approve it at this time to allow the Aubrey team to begin working with a core team of our teachers, K to 12, to begin the preview process to have full implementation by next school year. So the recommendation is to approve the proposal as listed.
Motion? Move to approve. Second. Questions? Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. Computer services agreement.
Thank you. This is our annual agreement. We use the Central Susquehanna Intermediate Unit's financial system as do almost about half the school districts in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So we're asking for approval of this system. It's what we use for public accounting, payroll, personnel, also taxes as well.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, carries. And approval of the audit, Mr. Holtzman.
Yes, sir. Obviously, you had your presentation earlier, and Mr. Stauffer is serious. If you have any additional questions or comments or something, you can contact me, or you can contact me directly. I think he's given that information as part of his presentation, so please feel free to do that. I know that it was a really great audit, and really fantastic business office team that does a great job, and I should even give credit to Dr. Moser, who also got tremendously tight programs going through that audit, as well as Rick Holman and Becky Hess as well, in the food service side. So I just said a little earlier, but I would like to compliment them. They did a fantastic job. Despite all the ins and outs, if you notice, again, it was good news for about $600,000, but budgetarily, it's only 1% variance to our whole budget. So think about that. It's a very close budget at the end of the day. So if we realistically, more students in cyber or Abraxas or another issue, that number can go the other direction.
Okay, do we have any motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Questions for Mr. Holtzman? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Financials, Mr. Holtzman.
Thank you. We have normal bills for payment for the cafeteria and the general fund, as well as purchase orders. And then we have normal budget and expense report. We'll try to give a summary on a year-to-date basis of issues we see or concerns that we have.
Motion to approve? So moved.
Second.
Questions for Mr. Holtzman? Making your life easy here, Mr. Holtzman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, Klein Avenue, comments, like that.
Just to let you know, we've been working probably since November to acquire vaccinations for our staff. We had plans, they've changed on them and so on, but we've probably put 4 or 5 options in for our staff over the last month or so, from being a phase 1A to being in the teacher part of it. And we're going to continue to try to make some options available, but a staff member made a suggestion of putting a Google Doc out there with all the different possibilities that we have. There's only one left right now, but anyhow, Ms. Kuza put it out today, so hopefully if people haven't gotten their vaccination, they still have a chance, and but when we look at the numbers that we know we're filled, we believe we may get as close as 80% of our staff, and that includes bus drivers, subcontractors, everybody that may have gotten the vaccine or plan to. So we sent out a survey today hoping that number and what we see are the same or close to each other. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Anything else? Okay. Board member comments?
Actually, I would like to thank Dr. Klein for contributing to the WGAL interview. You represented us very, very well, and I thank you for that.
Agreed.
Anybody else? Okay, public comment. Anybody? Okay, in that case then, we are going to go executive session, but we will not be put to that. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.